Okay, today we're going to be doing a remote start in a 2012 Chevy Cruze LS with an automatic transmission. And the unit we're going to be installing is a Avital 4111 one button remote start system. The car already has keyless entry on the and trunk pop on the remote built into the key, so I don't need a unit with lock, unlock, and all that stuff. This unit will unlock it while it's running because the Chevy remotes don't work when the car is running, so keep that in mind. And then I'm going to be using an FLCAN bypass module. I used to use directed bypass modules, but they no longer allow me to flash the bypass modules or program them, not being a dealer. So AudioVox, the company that makes Flashlogic, still does, so that's what I'm going to go with. So right now I'm going to go ahead and get started with the bench prep. So I'm going to prep it to get it ready to go in the car, because it makes things a lot easier versus prepping it in the car. So we'll go ahead and take you through the steps of that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the big 6 wire harness on the Avital unit. So 2 of the wires that I'm going to start first by cutting off the wires that I'm not going to need and cutting them short. So 2 wires that I'm not going to use on here are the pink and white and the purple. One is a starter, one is second ignition. So I'm not going to need those for this vehicle, so I'm going to cut those off. Alright, then the next harness is going to be this 9-pin harness, and I'm going to cut off the green, black, blue, green, white, yellow, white, blue, and orange. Those are not going to be used for this installation, so I'm going to cut those off. Alright, and then on this little 5-pin one, I'm actually going to use all of the wires, so I'm going to leave that intact right now. Right now I'm just getting rid of the wires I'm not going to be using, clipping them short to get them out of the way. So I'll show you what to connect them to and what they are here in a little bit. Alright, and this little 4-pin harness, I'm not going to be using any of them, so I just taped off the ends and left it there, just in case I ever end up needing it, or more so if I ever pull this out and try to use it in another car, I have it there. And you can see all these wires, I didn't de-pin them or anything like that, I just cut them short, taped the ends, leave them there, leave enough to be able to reattach if needed, if I wanted to take this unit out later on and reuse it. I likely won't do that because it's a pretty cheap unit, but I have the option there. So that is all for the unit here, as far as wires and whatnot here. So I'm going to finish up on this Avital for right now. Then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of what I need or I'm not going to use on the Flashlogic FLCAN, and then go from there. There's also the lock harness actually that I will be using for this as well. I'm going to end up connecting those wires to the FLCAN. A lot of these wires are going to be going from the Avital over to the Flashlogic FLCAN unit. There's going to be pretty minimal connections in the car. I think I counted maybe only like 7 or so. A lot of it is between the modules. Alright, so on the FLCAN, this little 3-wire with the yellow, yellow black, and yellow red, I'm going to cut off the yellow red and yellow black, only going to be using the yellow. Alright, and right next to it is the 3-wire plug with the whites, the white, white black, and white red. So for this one, I'm going to cut off just the white. So I'm cutting off the white, leaving the other 2. Okay, and the next harness right next to the yellow one, it's a 3, 6, 7-pin harness. I'm going to cut off the pink, black, and the orange, white. Everything else we're going to use. Okay, so on the next little 6-pin harness, the only ones I'm keeping are the gray red and green red. Everything else is being cut off on this plug. Alright, and on the other side here, little 3-pin one here, or 3-wire one, there's actually 4 pins in it, but either way, we're going to use all of those, so I'm going to keep those intact. Alright, and finally our last harness here, this little, well, it's kind of a big one, so I don't know, it's like what, 3, 6, 9, it's like 10 wires, so we're going to cut off the brown, the purple yellow, the purple black, and the white. Everything else we're going to be using. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to go ahead and do first is these 2 red wires, they both go to 12 volts, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut one of them and tie it into the other one after the fuses. So I'll do that first. Okay, so I'm going to start getting my powers and grounds all tied together. So there's a ground, a black ground here on this 10-pin I have this big harness here on the Avital. That one's going to go to ground, so I'm going to be tying stuff into that one. So right next to it in this other harness, this black-white, that would be normal for a parking brake input, which this is an automatic, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to tie that into here because I need to see a ground. As well as on the FLCAN here, the black wire on this harness right here, little 3-pin one, that black wire is also going to be a ground. So I'm going to tie those three all together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, so I'll just show you the connections that I'm going to be doing here. So we're going to be doing this red wire is going to go to the red, thick gauge red on the main unit. And then the black wire is going to go to the ground on the main unit. This blue and white is going to go to the blue and white on the main unit on the little 6-pin or 6-wire harness. I'll connect those and I'll show you afterwards. Alright, so very quick and dirty recap. So the red wire went to the red down here, that's for power. Black wire went down to the black one down here, tied in with it. And then the blue-white went to the other blue-white, which is down here. So just soldered those two together, and the other ones I spliced in because the other ones are going to ultimately go to power and ground. So it's looking kind of messy. I normally would be doing this on out in my garage on the bench, but it's a little cold out and I don't feel like doing that, so I'm doing it in my basement. Okay, so the next 3 wires I did were the green-black, blue-black, and red-white. And these two went to the lock and unlock wires, same colors, just no black in them. This went to the other red-white that I've got on the Avital here, and that's actually for trunk pop. I didn't realize that till I already did it. This unit, you can use them with a normal remote that has lock and unlock on it, so it doesn't hurt that I have it hooked up, but you don't have to have it hooked up. The lock and unlock, really you don't have to do the lock either, but I'm hooking them up either way. It's not that hard. That way I can later on add a normal lock and unlock trunk pop remote if I wanted to, in case my factory fobs die for some reason. So yeah, so I did those, soldered them together, and now I'm going to move on to the next part of the harness and I'll tell you what else is next. Okay, so the next 2 wires that I connected was the first one was the black and white on that harness here, and I connected that to accessory. That's accessory input, so I'm going to connect it. I connected it to this orange accessory wire on the Avital, and then this one here is the tack sense wire, the purple white, and I connected to the purple white on the Avital unit for the tack sensing as well. Normally I would hardwire it, but the last install I did with doing it this way worked fine, so that's what I'm going to go with. If it doesn't work, then I can always cut it and hardwire it down to the tachometer wire. So yeah, so then I am done on this side, so I'm going to move on to the other side. Alright, and obviously I know it kind of looks like a mess still, but as I'm going, I am doing some wire management, so I'm kind of taping the light harnesses together, bringing them around, taping them together. I'm not buttoning it all the way up yet because I've still got some connections to go from here to there, but I'm just kind of showing you that you kind of clean it up as you go along, route the same wires that are going the same area along the same way. That way it looks nice when you get it into the car and everything, so it doesn't jump out at you the second you look under the dash. Alright, so starting on the other side here, these are going to be our immobilizer wires, so these are actually going to the car, hardwired to the car, so I'm not doing anything with those right now. I'm going to keep them to the side. And on the next harness, the yellow is the only wire we've got, and that's a pass lock wire, so that's also going to be hardwired to the car. So we're going to put it off to the side with those ones, because they're going to end up going basically to the same place. Alright, moving over to the left, this next harness here, these first two, the brown red and brown yellow, those are going to be going to the immobilizer area as well. So I'm going to kind of bring those over to this side. I'm going to end up running a bunch of those wires that are actually going to be the main car connection wires. So I'm going to move those over to the side and then move on. Alright, so moving along, this orange black went to the gray hood status wire on the Avital, and this pink wire went to the ignition wire on the Avital. You tap it in there. This is ignition sense and then hood pin output, so that is what you got to do there. And then this orange one is going to go to the car as well, so it's going to be bundled up with all these other ones over here. Alright, and this green and what is that? Green and reddish is going to be immobilizer wire, so we're putting that over to the side. And this gray and red is going to go to the brake. Alright, so just a quick recap on the last two wires. So this green and red is going to go to the immobilizer, so it's going to go along with this bundle over here that we got going to the ignition switch area. And then this gray and red one goes down to the brown wire off of the little 5-pin harness here, and that's the brake shutdown wire. And that is all that I have to do for prepping here. So now what I'm going to do is clean up the wiring a little bit, wire manage it, and then basically get ready and go do it in the car. So I'll show you what this looks like after it's wire managed, so you can see it doesn't look this sloppy. Just during this process you kind of get that way. And also I'm showing it on video. If I was doing it just on myself, it'd be a lot cleaner to start with, just because I already kind of would have a method to do it. Alright, so here's what I got now. Kind of wire manage stuff together, put stuff that's going to go in the same areas together, kind of route it in here. Some guys will tape everything so you only see black all along. I don't like that big tapey mess because it's hard to troubleshoot things if something ever is problematic. So basically every connection on this car is going to be at the body control mount on the passenger side. So I kind of tied everything together that's going to be going to the car. So these are all the wires going to be going to the cars, probably like 10 of them, which really isn't that bad. So these are all going to be going there, so I got it prepped and ready to go.